Okay, so repressive desublimation can be one of the most difficult themes in the tolerance module, but we'll break it down and hopefully it won't be as difficult as it first appears. The theory is based on the ideas of a philosopher called Marcuse, who was part of the Frankfurt School. And Marcuse draws on Marx, who is the key theorist who criticizes capitalist society. If you remember, Marx thinks capitalist society is divided into two main classes, and basically it's based on exploitation. He also draws on the ideas of Freud. Now, Freud is a psychologist and puts forward lots of what he calls defense mechanisms. So sublimation is one of these defense mechanisms that Freud speaks about, and it's one that Marcuse uses in his theory that draws together some sociological and some psychological ideas. So what is this idea of sublimation? We need to understand that before we understand desublimation. Sublimation is the idea that we have these sexual and aggressive drives, which are very, very basic to human beings, but rather than being expressed in their crude form, they're channeled into higher activities. So Freud said perhaps they could be channeled into art. So rather than people just crudely acting out sexual and aggressive drives, they're somehow expressed in a different way. However, in desublimation, there's no rechanneling of sexual and aggressive energy, and these energies are expressed in a crude way. So for instance, through pornography or through fighting or something like that. But the sexual and aggressive energy is just expressed in a very raw form. Now, Marcuse interestingly argues that this desublimation is repressive. Yeah? So the free expression of sexual and aggressive drives is not true freedom. So we might think how wonderfully free we are, that there's all these limitations are lifted off. But according to Marcuse, it's actually a means of social control in capitalist societies. And this idea of bread and circuses somehow kind of sums this up. So this would be the idea if you want to keep people, keep people controlled, you want to keep people from not forming together to create a revolution, you need to give them enough to eat, that's the bread, and you need to give them circuses, you need to give them distractions. So we could see certainly things like pornography, but perhaps much of the TV that we watch falling under this category of circuses, of a distraction to distract people from what's really going on. So in conclusion then, we could argue, using this idea of repressive desublimation, that pornography and other distractions that express our basic drives are not a sign of how free we are. They're not some sort of wonderful liberation, but are actually a false freedom based on an ideological version of tolerance. So hopefully that breaks down this idea of repressive desublimation for you. It is a tricky idea. Have a look at it a few times and see if you can break it down as we've done here into the different sections. What is sublimation? First of all, what does that mean? What is desublimation as a second thing? Why is it repressive? And what's the basic point being made by Marcuse through this idea?